John, and thanks everyone for coming out this afternoon. Good to see you in person after 2+ seasons of Zoom meetings. So got to see a few on the warning tractor and BP, but good to see everybody back here. Before we get started, I think we want to recognize the situation down in Mansfield right now at Timberview High School. Not sure of all the specifics there. We hope things are stable and people are safe there, and sad that anyone's got to be in that position. So our thoughts are there, certainly. I want to start today by thanking our fans. We drew over 2 million people to Globe Life Field this year, which led the American League, and that's a remarkable number in an accomplishment in any season, but especially so in a year where we won 60 games. It's a nod to this facility, the newness of it, the amenities, the luxury, but it's really a tribute to our fans, the community, their loyalty and passion for this club, even in a very tough season for us. So our fans, you showed up, you supported us, you supported the club, you went through the growing pains of a rebuilding year with us. Our fans were a huge bright spot in an otherwise tough year, and we just cannot thank each of you enough for that. We feel we owe it to you to build with a real sense of urgency at this point. Let me hit on a few other brief things before we get started with the media's questions. First off, organizationally, we've made a number of changes in the last couple of months. I think it's that comes after a lot of review and discussion between the three of us and others, department heads. I think it's important to note we have no further changes planned at this point. We will be adding to our staff. We have a number of kind of important positions: the farm director, several members of Woody's staff, several other important kind of behind-the-scenes positions to fill, and so we'll spend quite a bit of time and energy addressing those. We already are working on that, but I think it's worthwhile pointing out we're not planning any other significant changes. We feel really good about the group we have and ultimately the direction we're going with the additions we're going to make. As far as off-season plans, I know that'll be a popular topic. We want to get into that some with you, but we're still in the process of putting our personnel plans in place. We have a number of discussions and meetings set as you would expect, less than a week after the season ended. So while we have an idea of what we want to do, we can't quite get into specifics. We do plan to be active. We think we can continue to develop a young group, some of whom are up here now, many more of whom are not, and we're excited about it and will join us. As well as adding quality players via free agency and potentially via trades to accelerate our timeline and ultimately win our first championship, which is very clearly our goal. We understand where we are. We're realistic about it. We're like I mentioned, and we're a 60-win club on the field. That's not lost on us, but we do believe we have a lot of positives. We believe we can start to put things together with an active off-season, internally and external additions and improvements. We don't necessarily expect to make up 30 or 40 games in the standings in one winter, but we're going to take real moves in that direction and believe in what we can accomplish here. So with that, we're happy to open it up and take your questions.
Okay, well, that we'll start taking questions, and we'll start with Evan Grant.
You don't have to do the Zoom introductions. John, Siwa, either one of you guys, or maybe both, but you both used the words active in terms of talking about free agency this winter. I think there may have been an occasion where maybe even the word aggressive came out. I guess, how do you plan to be active? I mean, what does active mean? And do you plan to be aggressive in terms of the top tier free agents?
We are going to look to add to the core of this team. In some cases, really develop the core of this team. And we view free agency, in particular, like this class and the next couple years' classes, as attractive areas for us to focus in. We have we have a number of young players we're excited about, but the reality is we don't have a lot of guys that have locked down spots or that we have to maneuver around on the roster. The downside of that is we lost 60 games. The upside of that is that it allows us a lot of flexibility, a lot of areas that we can improve. We think we have a very good story to tell in terms of where we're headed and the resources we have, both in terms of young talent, in terms of our fan base and our market, and in terms of ownership's willingness to support us financially. So those factors add up, but we're confident that we can attract quality players here.
And so, do you intend to pursue the top tier of talent? And I know that's all subjective, but we all know names out there. I'm not asking you for names. I guess that's just the only way to ask it, is you plan to go after the big ticket guys?
Yeah, we're going to be discussing players from in every category, every position, and every area of the market, but there's nobody that we're going to rule out because of perceived price tag.
For either of you, how do you sell the Texas Rangers to free agents?
I mean, some of it is what I just touched on. I think it's an exciting time to be part of what we're building here. Getting in on not quite the ground floor, because we feel like we've already got some momentum beneath the surface, but certainly at the big league level, you can make that analogy. Listen, we have, I think when a free agent, in our experience, when you talk to marquee players, they're looking for a chance to win. They're looking for fair market value and to be well compensated, and they're looking for an organization and a community that both they as the player and their family can be comfortable and can thrive in. Feel very, very good about. Let me start from the work our way up there. Feel very good about that piece of it. It's a great place to live and great place to play. Amenities wise, our ability to support a player and his family on and off the field. We are committed. Ownership is recommitted recently to support us financially, to pay market dollars. When you're not, we're not in the postseason. Obviously, we haven't been now for 5 years. We don't have that advantage of kind of we're not on TV tonight. Playing. We understand this isn't a situation where we're looking for discounts. We're going to have to pay market dollars to get top players, and we're prepared to do so. And then I think from a standpoint of winning, like I said, we're understanding where we're at. 60 wins, you're not going to make up 30 or 40 in one off season, but we have one of the better farm systems. We have the third pick in the country and the draft pool associated with that. Things that we have ownership commitment to spend dollars for a number of years. Things that to a player, I believe, speaks to a chance to win for a sustained period of time. And as we look to bring in players on multi-year deals, I believe that's going to be important to them.
What else?
What are your conversations with some of the young guys in this last week? So what's given you encouragement that they got something out of this season? Obviously, we've talked about how tough the losses are, but you've talked about how hard they've kind of stayed to the course. What have you gotten out of those conversations that give you encouragement?
Gotten a lot out of it. I think, just them getting experience, I think was key. Just getting them reps at this level, and then having gone through some of the struggles or even successes. They've honestly had to work on a lot. They've had to try different things. They've had to learn a lot of different things. And the only way you can get that is by putting them in this situation. You can play in AA, you can play in AAA all you want, but until you actually get to see what it feels like and what it looks like in this environment against the best in the world, it's invaluable experience for them. So hearing their conversations, hearing the growth that they had, some of it showed up on the field and some of it didn't. We saw signs of it with some guys, and some guys they just we liked what we saw, underneath, but it didn't quite get between the lines. So, listen, we knew that this was a development year. We knew this was a growth year, and we have to call upon some of these guys next year if they don't make our team, if they're our depth, that we know that we provided them with at least experience to know that, okay, they know what to expect when they get called up. I think that's really important. But, I've challenged a lot of our younger guys, especially the inexperienced guys, to really, get after it in the offseason, work hard, not just on the physical side, but on the mental side, so that way, when they come in, they're ready. They're ready to compete. They're ready to earn a job. Some of them know if they have to be versatile or if they have to, play different positions. But I like, we're fortunate that they were able to be put in that situation and get that experience, because otherwise we wouldn't know what we had next year. Obviously in a situation where we want to win. So we'll know what more to expect from them when we get them next year.
John, this organization once broke records to get the best shortstop in baseball. There was a lot of debate at that time about whether that was a good idea or not to do it. In the end, it seemed the problem more was that the organization didn't carry on from that point in committing to money to other free agents to build around. Are you prepared to do that type of thing now, to build on that and push forward after if you do get a player of that kind?
Kevin, first I agree with your take on that it was, the size of the contract that was given to Alex at the time, obviously was a record. That wasn't so much the issue, is that it didn't, it was not consistent with the rest of the plan, and that there was not a continuing commitment to build, whether that was to promote young players and develop them, which is part of it, but also a critical part is to add other key players externally, and that part that didn't really happen. So our plan is everything we've discussed here internally is this is not a one-off season kind of quick fix. This is not we're not looking to sign one player to be the finishing piece on a club that obviously struggled this year. But we're looking for players that can be part of the helping to turn this around and really launch this to where we want it to go. That also that can help our young players develop as they get up here. Right? We want to some of our young players that were up here this year were asked by virtue of who else we had on the club, were asked to hit in the middle of an order or the top of an order or face off against some of the best in the game, whereas if we're able to put together a little bit more of a core of a lineup externally and allow some of these other young players to develop with a little less pressure on them at different points in the lineup, we see a lot of benefits of that as well.
What else? Chris?
Can you guys go into the coaching changes a little bit and the reasons for? I mean, I know you guys had a very young and inexperienced roster, so I understand that they all, from Chris Woodward all the way down throughout the coaching staff, had a tall task working with what you guys had on the field. Can you just go into the decisions on why to not bring back Don and Louie, and to have guys like Alex and them kind of in limbo, and why you're going to bring back who you're bringing back?
I'm going to hit on that. Let's first off, I want to say obviously thank you to those guys, and I know it's really tough. I've had obviously I've known Walk for a long time. I played for him. He's mentored me. I can't thank him enough. But I think in terms of both positions, I think we just needed a new voice. I don't want to sound cliche, but I think that's kind of where we're at. I think my needs as a manager are a little different. From the first year, I can't thank him enough. Like I said, for the mentorship that he gave me through my rookie year as a manager. And I'm not saying I got a long way to go to obviously get this organization in the right direction, but it's difficult. It's difficult when you spend so much time with each other, pouring into each other, understanding the vision where we're trying to get to. So I can't thank them enough for that. And as far as you look at where we've been offensively, we just haven't been able to get past. I feel like we could have been a little bit better. And listen, I know Louie poured his heart out. Louie gave it everything he had. He's a tremendous human being, fits our culture in so many different ways, but like I said, we just needed a new voice. and it hurts. It hurts, and it's a failure, in my opinion, from my standpoint, that we didn't get maybe where we needed to get to for him, because it wasn't from a lack of effort. Like I said, all those guys, Krabby, I want to thank Louis or Berge, same thing. They gave everything they had every single day. I mean, the conversations they had with our players, our players are in a better place, but I feel like we just need to go in a new direction. So it's a really difficult decision, and I don't take it lightly. You got people's families and lives, but I'm excited about the change, but at the same time, it really hurts to have to make the change.
What else? Levi?
JD, earlier you mentioned that there are some guys that have grown, but not a lot of guys that lock down positions, and that gives you guys a lot of opportunities for improvement. I was just curious if you, where, and maybe this is for all three of you, where do you see the area of most need as you guys are addressing this through free agency or trades or whatever? Like, what do you have an area that you see as the area of greatest need?
Yeah, Levi, I think that we have needs everywhere. I mean, I don't think we're limiting ourselves in terms of ways to upgrade our roster. I think that we have needs everywhere, and we're focused and committed to exploring every possible way to improve our big league club and do it in a manner that is still disciplined and consistent with our long-term vision here of creating a long-term championship window. So really, there are no limitations at this point.
When it comes to the vacancies, whether that's hitting coach, farm director, all of those things, what exactly are you guys looking for in those people that'll come in those positions?
I can hit on our staff. Obviously, I think we got a bench coach and obviously a hitting coach to hire. I think the bench coach is obviously probably somebody that can kind of relay the message to the players' staff. Kind of be my outlet to kind of making sure that culture, everything that kind of inside the clubhouse is running right. Also, obviously, in-game stuff. Just somebody that's that I can trust, that I can rely on every day to kind of discuss, okay, are things moving in the right direction? I don't have eyes and ears everywhere. I kind of need that guy to kind of be that, but also push the message, consistent every day. And also from a hitting coach standpoint, I think there's a specific outline of what I'd like to see from our hitters every day. And, I'm going to lay those expectations out to whoever our new hitting coach is, and this is what I want to see. I want to see these guys prepared, grinding at bats, understanding things on a little bit deeper level, but not overwhelming them. So all those things, I mean, listen, nothing's changed as far as like what the expectations are. But, that hitting coach I'd like to see, come in and get every one of our guys, be able to reach every single one of our guys from our best hitter to our worst hitter, and get them to kind of fit that mold. I think that's really important. And I'm not saying that wasn't done. It's just I know that maybe it could be done, maybe a little bit better, or just, like I said, reach more guys.
I think just on the farm director side, to echo that, really, first and foremost, someone who meets our culture, our values, who can implement some of our systems and processes in a manner that connects with both players and staff. The ability to lead, certainly manage a lot of different personalities, and have continuity top to bottom, bottom to top within the organization of how we are developing players, how we are maximizing their true potential, and also our staff's potential, developing our staff. And so those are those are the qualities on the farm director side. But I think they're aligned with what we're looking for in terms of our big league staff as well.
John, you've been here for a long time now, and you've ridden the good and the bad through this, but after a season like this, a fifth year like this, what do you tell fans who are really frustrated that your plan in place is the right one, and ultimately that you know what you're doing and good at it?
I think first off, I'd say to our fans is that we share their frustration, that this hurt for all of us. Nobody up here, I don't think anybody in the organization has ever lost 100 games before. We didn't necessarily set out to do that. This wasn't a situation where we're looking for a draft position, but we knew what we were getting into, and we kind of stripped it down. We didn't pursue major upgrades last offseason. It was much more about opportunity for others and kind of building an infrastructure. Similar to what we said to, our pitch to free agents would be, is that we have a lot of positive things going. They have not translated, obviously, to the big leagues. We felt this was this year was a necessary evil in terms of a long-term build. Kind of what you implied there, what you asked. This isn't about me. This isn't about my ability to do. This is a team, and specifically, I kind of gestured there to see why, but I mean, I specifically have asked for help. This is the business has grown. The organization has grown. The job of running it has grown, and so we have, not just with CY, but with a number of other people in the organization, we've sought out people with different ideas, different areas of expertise, and we're starting to see the results of that in our development system, in our just the sheer number and quality of young players that we have that are going to provide us with a lot of opportunities, whether that's them succeeding up here or that opening the door for acquiring other players. So, listen, the last 5 years, it's been 5 years since we last made the postseason. I don't enjoy saying that. We're very cognizant of it. The first couple of years there, we were kind of in the middle, where we probably should have started a rebuild sooner than we did. But we've added a lot of talent to this organization in the last couple of years. We have another big talent acquisition opportunity next year with the draft, the international program, and we're also no longer in the tear down mode. So our fans that are connecting with some of our young players that are coming up here, those guys have a real chance to be here and be part of something special as we go forward. So I think that would be how I would respond to that. But we feel good about, we're confident in what we're building, but we're not asking our fans to believe it until we demonstrate it on the field, and that's on us.
What else, Alex?
When you're evaluating players who have been with you since day one to players you acquired in July and August, how do you differentiate evaluating those guys?
I think there's a number of ways. Certainly, I think we've got a track record with all of our players, whether they've come internally or externally. I think that we have a great pro scouting department that does a great job of really helping us understand all of our acquisitions. So I think that anybody coming in from externally, we certainly know who they are, have a pretty good idea. And then internally, I think that we have a number of measures that we evaluate over the course of the season to see. We have goals, expectations, and we checkpoints at which we determine, are they meeting these expectations, and if they're not, how do we change that? And so there's a process for both, but I think ultimately more often than not, players show us out on the field with their play, and we have to self-reflect and determine whether or not we're providing all the resources possible to allow them to maximize their abilities. And if we're not, we need to improve that, connect with them.
John, when you talk about the financial commitment that ownership has made, and I know you can't answer this in real specifics, but you guys did intend to be aggressive after 19, and didn't land those guys that you had targeted. You've got very little money on the books next year. In terms of the commitment that ownership has made, is there any way to kind of give some context to that? Is it, hey, top 15 of baseball payrolls? Is it you've got $100 million to add? I know I'm asking unfair numbers, but if there's any way you can provide some context, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think the best way to put it is consistent with a market and fan base of this size. I think that's probably the best way to frame that for you.
Okay, Jeff?
When you guys are looking at current needs based on what's coming from the farm system, how do you weigh what to go after and what not? Like, I'm assuming that you're not going to go heavy on a third baseman, but maybe you could upgrade at shortstop. Just how do you weigh that stuff?
Well, Well, I think, Jeff, to the earlier point, we have a number of needs, and while we like the prospects we have coming, there's still prospects. There's still development that needs to take place, and certainly we've had guys come up and excel. We've had guys come up and struggle, and so I don't think we have prospects on the cusp of walking in and being all-stars next season. There's a development process that will still take place at the big league. So to answer your question, I think that we're not going to limit ourselves in terms of how we view the number of ways we can upgrade our roster. And so certainly we don't want to, I think there's probably some positions that are a little more open than others, but that said, we have some creative ways right now to really evaluate things and map a path forward, which is exciting. And I think that we look forward to that challenge as we get into the off season and kind of seeing how it plays out.
What else? Back to Stephen.
Siwa, you've been on this job for less than a year, and you talked a lot about the learning curve when you took it last December and even early in the season. Where you stand now, what you've learned, how different do you think that's going to make you moving forward, knowing the roster management, knowing where this organization is? What have you learned, and how is that going to make you different moving forward?
First and foremost, I've learned a ton. Every single day, there's been something new thrown at me that I've learned and picked up, and there's still a ton left to learn. I by no means have this job figured out, but I'm grateful for the team that we have. Certainly JD's leadership over the past 10 months as I've stepped into this job, and Woody's support, and the support of so many other team members that we have upstairs in our baseball ops department, and then also from ownership as well. That said, I think that I kind of fall back on two areas that I feel pretty confident in, that I understand people and I understand baseball. And at the end of the day, it's about getting the best out of our players and playing the game in a certain manner that allows us to compete and win. And I'm confident in my abilities to evaluate in those regards, but there's a ton left to learn, and I don't have. And I don't think any one person has it all figured out. I think there's, that's why it's a team effort. I think that's why these operations and departments have grown immensely, and I think it's necessary.
What else? Let's go back to Dave.
Just to confuse things a little more, as you go into the offseason with the plans of being aggressive or active in the market, there is the overhanging ambiguity of the CBA and whatever negotiations may transpire. How does that affect how quickly or how you go about business, let's say, between now and whenever that's resolved?
Dave, I think good question, and really one that is out of our control. So we're going to prepare as a team would with our aspirations. I'm hopeful. We're hopeful that the CBA is resolved quickly and quietly for the good of the game, for all parties, for primarily for our fans. If we have to adjust, we will. But we're focused on putting our plans together, and we'll look to move forward there as quickly as we can within reason. Again, if it's out of our control, if we have to adjust, we will.
Other questions? Mac.
Question for CY. Since you've come here, how many of your ideas have you been able to implement? Or is that not something that you were eager to do just yet? It was sort of an observe and wait and see mode before you said, let's do A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, Mac, first of all, I don't have a running tally, so I can't tell you specifically the number. But it's probably a question better for JD in terms of, I think that it's been a lot of suggestions, and he makes suggestions to me, and our ideas are implemented collaboratively by a number of people. So I can't, I don't like taking credit for any ideas. I think it's always a collaborative effort, and I think that successful organizations operate that way. But secondly, I think really more importantly, I think that JD and I have a partnership and input into every decision that's made here. And, I feel that has been a great setup, and it's worked. It's functioned very, very well. And I think that a number of the changes that we've made, and where we are right now is a reflection of that. I don't know if you have anything to elaborate on.
We have bigger office furniture. That's kind of a softball. No, I agree with how CY put it. I mean, it's like a true partnership between the two of us, and beyond the two of us on a day-to-day basis, Woody and his staff, Ross, Josh, Kip, Ryan, Nappy, Darren, Jamie, you name it, kind of go on down the line. Like, there really is a team here. And everyone's opinions are kind of given equal time and weight. I think what for two things. One, there's no real like scoreboarding as far as like whose idea it is and whether it gets done. Is it best for the Rangers? Is it best for our players? And that's really the test that everything kind of goes through. But I will say on CY, to Stephen, to your question, like one of the things that CY has helped push is his competitiveness, his competitive nature. We're all competitive, but I think it being his first year in the job as well, extremely high standards. Very kind of disciplined and structured in how he goes about his business, and I think those traits are continue to kind of push through the organization. Not that they weren't here beforehand, but I think that his competitiveness and that edge and kind of push that he brings will really benefit us long term.
What else?
Out of nowhere.
Several of you have asked, we set out to think of that, the clubhouse tours, and I guess it made some sense to let you see the clubhouse before we bring the public in. So we've kind of set up a little room if you want to do that after we're done.
Evan, you get a discount on your ticket.
I don't know how much you guys are realistic about your position, and I think through here we've gotten a plan, right? That you set out. You're going to add this year, probably more than a 1-year plan, and you've also got high leverage draft picks coming up, right? The question, just the little research that I did, the suggestion on 100 lost teams and luring top free agents, it does seem to be an uphill battle. There haven't been a lot of cases of that. Is there something that stands out that allows, and maybe this is because, Chris, you do know players, is there something specific about this organization at this point in time that you feel is going to put you guys over the top with those guys?
Yeah, I mean, Evan, it's you're right, but I can't compare us to every unique circumstance out there. I mean, I think they're all to some degree one-offs, as are we this year. And I think that as I look at where we are and how we're positioned moving forward, I think it's an exciting time to be a Texas Ranger if you're looking at our organization and you're really diving in and understanding. That said, there's a financial component to every free agency decision, and we have to be competitive in those financial conversations. That's probably 90% of it. But beyond that, there are a lot of great things that are happening underneath the surface, and it's tough to say in a 102-loss season. But as a player, I put on that lens, and I fully believe that. I look at our farm system and where we are. I look at the culture, the people that we have here. I look at the market we're in. I look at what an unbelievably great place this is to live, with a fan base that is just craving a winning team. And I think as players who are willing to understand that and look at this and see what the opportunity is, they're going to get excited about that. And the competitors that we want are going to embrace that. And I think we're going to find the right ones that fit what we're doing.
JD, this is to kind of piggyback off of what Dave was asking. You guys can be active in November before the CBA expires with guys who aren't technically, qualifying free agent guys, right? Because there would be no compensation attached to those guys. Is the place where there's like a stress point going to be because you guys don't know what the compensation rules will be, or if that will carry over to the next CBA?
There's a few hypotheticals in there that I want to kind of be careful with, but I don't think that anybody has a real understanding of what the the rules will be until the new CBA is in place, and it certainly would benefit all involved if it's done sooner than later. Just one other point on your previous question, like as you look at the 100 lost clubs, two things there. One, I don't know, it's kind of like a hitter, that hits 300 versus a hitter that hits 298 or 299. Like, so I'd be careful with that. There's definitely a negative stigma that we all feel, and we all like. But as far as like your research, and the other piece is how many of those clubs were kind of actively pursuing talent and wanted to be in the market and believed in their ability to recruit them. So that would be the only other thing I'd add there.
When it comes to setting the roster this offseason, what are your thoughts there? Does it rely strictly on the guys you want to protect from the 40-man, or do you also carve out some room for potential free agents?
We're going to need room for external additions. We've kind of seen this year coming in some respects from the roster standpoint. You can see a year or two out that there's going to be a little bit of a crunch. We've already started having those conversations. We're going to meet again here in 2 weeks with all of our group and kind of grind through it more. But we're going to have some tough decisions on our roster to both on who to protect, but also who to take off to make sure we have space for external additions.
A couple of times, all of you have talked about, you've used the word winning next season, but then you've also said we can't make up 30 or 40. What's realistic for the 2022 Rangers?
I think that's impossible to predict at this point, given, we're in day one or day two of our off-season planning. I think that be able to answer that question much better closer to spring training. But we have a ton of work. We know we need to upgrade a number of spots. We have a ton of work to do between now and then. And, I don't like setting limits or expectations either. So I think that, I think that we view this as a process to build this the right way with the right players so that we can sustain success for a period of time. And, Jeff, what that looks like for 2022 in the win-loss column, it's impossible to predict at this point.
Other questions? Kennedy.
Just to touch on the hitting coach again, I don't know if this is a Woody question or CY, but are you looking for some more philosophical changes, mechanical changes in, how you guys go about the hitting, or is there something specific you guys, want changed there?
I think, listen, I have a pretty, specific set of expectations that I, like I said, that I expect out of my hitters, and every time they get in the batter's box, and I think that's probably where we're going to start. And I know that, that was obviously conveyed to all of our hitting coaches, when we hired them. So whoever the new hitting coach is, I'm not going to point out, obviously our previous hitting coaches, any flaws or anything that he had. I would, listen, people are who they are. We had to make some adjustments to a lot of the things that we did. The overall expectations for what we want out of our hitters hasn't changed, but how we get there had. We changed meetings, we changed different things, and at the end of the day, just, there wasn't as much progress as I would like to have seen. So the new hitting coach, obviously, we're going to have to interview some guys, get a feel for their energy, for their, how they can teach, how they connect with players, and obviously, these guys have reputations we're going to call around. So it's, until we get in front of these guys, it's hard to say. Some guy might blow me away, be like, okay, that's what we're looking for. I want somebody that's obviously high energy, that's going to that's going to really connect with these guys on a daily basis. Outline the expectations for these guys every day, and hold them accountable to that. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I can say for on the hitting side. And listen, how that guy fits. If the head guy's more mechanical, we might need some more approach-based, secondary positions, or vice versa. So it just depends on obviously who we hire and what his traits are, his things that he's good at. We want to complement him with people around him that can, add value. So, I hope that answers the question, but it's a tough one. I just didn't want to obviously get into obviously Louis, poured his heart out. And I want to make clear that he did everything he possibly could, I felt like.
Take a few more. What else? Yvonne?
This is probably too specific a question for such a broad setting, but Spencer Patton's contract, having come over from Japan, can you help clarify what his contract situation is this offseason?
He's still under the kind of reserve, under control going forward as a pre-arb player, but coming with a kind of a different salary because of how he was acquired.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Evan, you got a few? NFL question?
Just some housekeeping since the fall league rosters were announced today. Huff is listed as an infielder on the surprise roster. So I know he's working on some catching in Arizona right now. Will he catch during the fall league at all, or will he not catch?
I think unlikely not. I think it's still to be determined, but we're implementing a return to catching program for him. And the most important thing for him is that he gets ABs, make up for the time he missed. And really the goal for Sam is that he's full go by spring training of 2022 in terms of being able to catch.
Okay, so.
But it'll be an entire off-season progression.
Instructs work on catching, and then in the fall league games,
Most
just at
likely.
bats. And the second thing was, when you talk about at bats, the one thing that stood out to me was I thought that I would have expected Josh Young to be on the fall league roster with about 300 at bats this year. Was he asked to go, or was there a reason that he's not on that roster?
I think that as we looked at it, we were satisfied with the number of at-bats Josh got. I think prioritizing Foscue with as much time as he missed, I think that we have ways of making up some of Josh's ABs, but getting Foscue out there was of high importance to us, but it doesn't change the way we view either player. We are very excited about both.
Like, just function-wise, like you can only prioritize one infielder on that roster, right? I mean, that's basically, you get one infield
Correct.
slot. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
What else?
It's like a draft of positions. So you draft like a priority position, and all the teams fill that, and then you fill back. But the first guy you put on, you're guaranteed kind of basically starts every day, and other players have to fit in as the manager sees appropriate.
Okay, so if you want to